Cowboys Nation, buckle up because this story just took a turn that nobody saw coming, and honestly, it feels like the kind of plot twist that could only happen to the Dallas Cowboys. We're talking drama, history, hidden tension, regret, and a whole lot of fan emotion, all sparked by one man finally breaking his silence after years of keeping things behind closed doors. Yes, I'm talking about Matt Eberflus, the former rising defensive star inside the Cowboys organization who went on to make waves in Indianapolis and Chicago, and who has now finally opened up about why he walked away from Dallas, what happened behind the scenes, and why his departure might have changed the entire direction of this franchise. And Cowboys fans? They're completely losing their minds because what he said confirms what many of them have suspected for years but never had the inside details to back up. When Eberflus talked in this new interview, he didn't come off angry, he didn't sound bitter, he didn't call out names, but the message between the lines was loud, clear, and absolutely explosive. He left because Dallas didn't move fast enough, didn't commit strongly enough, and didn't show him the long-term vision that other teams were offering. And when you look back at how things unfolded since his departure, it stings in a way that Cowboys fans are not handling quietly. Now, understand something here. Back when Eberflus was with the Cowboys, he wasn't some random assistant fetching coffee or organizing film sessions behind the scenes. He was a highly respected, sharp-minded defensive coach that players trusted, the media praised, and many within the organization believed would eventually become the next big defensive architect in Dallas. He was one of those coaches that just had that rare presence, a sense of detail, structure, and leadership that players gravitated toward. He had the football IQ, the teaching ability, the energy, and the long-term potential to anchor an entire defensive culture. People saw it. Coaches saw it. Fans who paid attention saw it. But for whatever reason, the Cowboys front office didn't lock him in. And that right there is where this entire story takes a painful turn. Because while Eberflus was thriving in Dallas, while he was viewed internally as a future piece of the defensive identity, the Cowboys were as usual juggling decisions, evaluating options, slow-playing the process, and seemingly unsure of their long-term plans. They didn't guarantee him elevation. They didn't promise him the defensive coordinator spot. They didn't give him a clear pathway the way other organizations were prepared to do. And according to his own recent comments, that lack of commitment eventually pushed him to look elsewhere, to find a place where he could grow, lead, and eventually run an entire defense without feeling like he was stuck waiting on decisions that might never come. He didn't blast the Cowboys. He didn't point fingers. But when he explained that he chose a different path because one team acted decisively while another hesitated, Cowboys fans connected the dots immediately. Dallas had the guy. Dallas had the future defensive mastermind in the building. And they let him walk. And now, years later, while the Cowboys have gone through defensive coordinators, scheme changes, identity crises, roster retools, and philosophical resets, Eberflus went on to Indy, helped shape a tough, disciplined defense, earned league-wide respect, and eventually became a head coach. Meanwhile, Cowboys fans were watching their own team deal with inconsistency, blown leads, missed assignments, lack of discipline, and a defense that just couldn't quite match the offense year after year. That's why this new interview hit like a nuclear bomb across Cowboys Nation. Fans were tweeting like crazy, posting on forums, making memes, flooding comment sections, and basically shouting, "We knew it. We knew this would happen. The Cowboys let another great coach get away." And honestly, can you blame them? This isn't the first time the Cowboys have been accused of mishandling coaching talent. This franchise has a long history of failing to secure high-level assistants, watching them develop under the star, then seeing other teams swoop in and give them the opportunities Dallas didn't move quickly enough to offer. And when Eberflus suddenly said that he needed a clearer commitment than what the Cowboys were giving at that moment, it just further highlighted the frustration that fans already feel about the front office. They're sick of the slow decisions. They're sick of the confusion. They're sick of the internal politics. They're sick of losing decisive coaching minds because the organization is stuck in neutral. But the part that bothers Cowboys fans the most is imagining what might have been. They're thinking about all the defensive pieces Dallas drafted since Eberflus left. They're thinking about the potential pairing between his disciplined style and the athletic talent that came through over the years. They're thinking about what he could have done with young players, how he might have developed them, how he could have shaped the identity of the entire defense. They're imagining years of continuity instead of constant turnover. They're imagining the Cowboys being one of the most structured defenses in the league, not just one of the most talented. They're imagining a completely different timeline. And that what if is driving fans crazy right now. Because imagine if Eberflus had stayed. Imagine if Dallas recognized his potential earlier, locked him in, and built a decade-long defensive foundation around his philosophy. Imagine the Cowboys becoming the Colts-style, bend but don't break, fundamentally sound, highly disciplined unit before other teams even figured out what he was about. Maybe Dallas would have had multiple top 5 defenses. Maybe the Cowboys would have avoided years of inconsistency. Maybe they would have won more playoff games. Maybe they would have had a completely different identity through the 2018, 2019, and 2020 seasons. Maybe, just maybe, the Cowboys would have finally been the complete team fans have been begging for. But that's not what happened, and that's why fans are reacting so strongly. And what's even more interesting is that Eberflus wasn't trying to stir drama. He expressed respect for Dallas. He acknowledged how much he learned there. He credited the Cowboys organization for shaping him early in his career. But even with that respect, he made it clear he needed a path forward, and the Cowboys weren't giving him one soon enough. So how is the Cowboys front office handling this? Probably the same way they handle every story like this: deflecting, ignoring, or pretending it's not a big deal. Because let's be honest, Jerry Jones isn't the type to come out and publicly say, "Yep, we messed that one up." He's not a regret guy. He's a spin the narrative guy. And even though they won't say it publicly, it's obvious this franchise has repeatedly watched coaching talent slip away while other teams capitalize. But the big question now is, what does this mean for the Cowboys moving forward? It means Dallas has to learn from this. They have to start committing earlier. They have to start locking down talented assistants before other teams lure them away. They have to create an environment where coaches feel valued, empowered, supported, and part of a long-term plan. Because if the Cowboys continue letting top coaching talent walk out the door, they'll continue to repeat the same cycle: wasted potential, inconsistent seasons, and disappointing playoff exits. But if they learn from this, and that's a big if, they can finally break that cycle. So as Cowboys Nation debates, argues, reflects, and reacts to this new revelation from Eberflus, one thing is crystal clear: this story isn't just about the past. It's about the future. It's about how Dallas handles coaching decisions from here on out. It's about whether the Cowboys will finally evolve into the kind of organization that secures elite talent instead of letting it slip away. It's about whether they'll break old habits or continue repeating history. And trust me, Cowboys fans are watching very closely. And they're not staying quiet this time. So Cowboys Nation, I want to know what you think. Do you believe the Cowboys blew it by letting Eberflus walk? Do you think the defense would look completely different today if he stayed? Should Dallas change the way they handle coaching talent? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I'm responding to as many as I can. Smash that like button, subscribe for more Cowboys updates, and stay tuned because this story is far from over.